Welcome back to Einstein Media Center, your one-stop shop for all unnecessary media dissection. Today we are joined by a very special guest as always. Please give a big welcome to Louisiana y'all alternative rock band, Inside Voices. How you guys doing?
Good. What's up? Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Good.
Can you guys just go around, introduce yourselves very quickly, and then also include, what you perform in the band?
For sure. My name is Tyler. I play rhythm guitar and lead vocals in Inside Voices.
Connor, I play drums.
Alex, and I play lead guitar, and then as of recently, I do some background vocals.
And then we have a bass player named Taylor who is unable to join us today.
Cool. So, four-piece band, and you guys have been at it for about a decade now. I was just hoping maybe you could reflect on that, just discuss maybe a little bit how you guys got together and what's changed and how you have seen yourselves grow over the past 10 years or so.
So Connor and I have been playing music together for like 15 or 16 years now. We were like 14 playing in these like screamo metalcore-esque bands, and then like Connor played guitar, and like I was playing bass, and then eventually Connor like picked up playing drums, and I was always like primarily like a guitar player, and so I just started playing along with him. And then he and I had a band in high school that was very like Title Fight adjacent like style, and we wrote on that for a little bit, and then we kind of like split off whenever I moved to Ruston to go to Louisiana Tech. Connor is living in Vicksburg still, and then after like a year of me being gone, we touched base and started Inside Voices, or like the inception of it, and that was the start. That was the start at least, and then from there it's just been what it's been. But I mean we did our first release was the self-titled in like 2015. And so, yeah.
And it was just me and him and another guy named Jory that was the founding bass player. He was in it for about 5 years, and then Alex joined whenever that bass player was still in the band. And after that, he left the band. We got Taylor, who's not here today, and we've had this lineup for about 3. Alex has been in it for 5 or 6 years, and Taylor has been in it for about 3. So yeah, this is the most current version of this band has been here for about 3 years now.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, was it you and Taylor that used to play music in another group prior to being in Inside Voices together?
Yeah, we were in a band called Critters. 2015, 2016. It was a long time ago, but we have been friends for decades now.
So can you talk a little bit about how you got brought in, Alex, to Inside Voices, and then bringing in Taylor as well?
Yeah, sure. So I met them in 2017, 2018, maybe. I was playing in a band called Rella. It was more like progressive rock based out of Shreveport, Louisiana, like an hour and a half west of us. And we had kind of played shows with them before. We did like a little weekend run together. Kind of became a lot closer after that one. And I think it was for my birthday, actually. I came over to their practice spot. It was for my 30th, maybe. We ended up drinking about 30 car bombs, I think. And in the midst of all of that, we were kind of joking around about they had considered adding a second guitar player for a while now, but could never like pinpoint what they wanted or who they wanted to play. And we kind of jammed some of their stuff, and it went well. And we were kind of joking around like, man, wouldn't it be kind of funny if you played with us? And I was just like, I mean, we could just do that. And the band I was in it fizzled out sort of. So I had a lot more time to play with them. And then eventually I just ended up with them.
You went from like a, I guess, progressive rock type of band, and Inside Voices already had that. Did you all have to, not, I don't want to say have to, but did you all end up kind of incorporating all of those different sounds, the title fight plus the progressive rock, like writing music going forward afterwards?
I'd say we kind of did.
Yeah, it was like I feel like a really good way to like hear it too is so Connor, Jory, and I did like all consecutive normal songs, which was our first full length album. That was us as a 3-piece band releasing what we had, and then the release after that, Seek. Connor and I already had written, so everything was already there. We were essentially ready to go record it, and then Alex came into the mix, and we were like, "Hey, so we have this material written. Do whatever you want. We like what you do, so just put whatever you want on it, and then we'll just see how that goes." And then and it went phenomenal. I mean, it was awesome. You can go hear it for yourself, And then but then Liminal Space, the release after that, was really like an encapsulation of us learning how to write with Alex, because Seek had already been written, and then he just put his flavor on it. And then Liminal Space was us kind of getting this, ironically enough, in this little in-between space of trying to figure out what to, and then like we were going through like switch of basses at the time and stuff, and it was a whole thing. And so, you've got that, and then that eventually evolved into If It Matters, because we had all 4 of us collectively in the band. We all wrote that album from scratch together, and so that's what that the way the evolution goes, so to speak. So yeah, it was definitely interesting and had its
Very cool. Can you talk a little bit about what that writing process was like for If It Matters? As you said, truly a full band now with all 4 of you working on the material together. Clearly a different writing process than the previous releases. Can you just talk about like what getting in that headspace was like and what your process was?
So all of our previous releases, basically our writing process was always somebody just writes a guitar riff. We all go into our jam room together and we just hammer it out however long it takes. We'll sit there. I mean, we've written a song in a day, or we've written like a piece of a song and then flesh it out over the course of weeks or months. But I feel like after Alex got in the mix, he has like a side project that he does called Kazi. And so he's already been like had some experience recording music like for himself and mixing his own music and stuff. And so we kind of use that as a tool to demo stuff out. And, sometimes we would write and go track some stuff with Alex, and then we could use that as like a, pre-production before we go into the studio, tweaking songs, tailoring them a little bit more. And then we ended up changing some stuff in the studio as well. So, I mean, we're never finished writing until the songs are done.
Yeah.
But yeah, we still basically do mostly the same thing where we just have ideas and we all kind of get in the same room together. We actually all live in 3 different states now too. Our bass player lives in Dallas, Texas. Alex still lives in Louisiana. Tyler and I live together in Mississippi. I've actually lived in Mississippi my whole life. I've never lived in Louisiana. So we're kind of a tri-state at this point.
I'd love to dig into that a little bit. What is it like, writing music and band practice and touring when you're all, far apart, so to speak?
So originally, I am from Western Louisiana. Alex is from the same area. Taylor's from the same area. And then even at the time, like before Taylor and Jory's in the band, Jory was also from the same area. So we were primarily kind of based within Louisiana, and our main scene, I guess, if you will, is the stretch from Monroe to Shreveport, just playing there, Ruston, everywhere in between. That's like, I guess, our stomping grounds primarily, I guess. And then I bounced over to we were always practicing in Vicksburg. Most of the things we were doing that because the jam rooms over here and all that. And so,
for context, Vicksburg, where I live, is just a little over an hour east of where they're all from.
Yes. And then so I moved over here, so it didn't really make anything too different. But then within the last year, or right at a year, Taylor had just happened to move to Dallas, and we had that conversation with him regarding, if we wanted to keep on rocking with this. And ultimately the answer was him, saying yes. And we've been able to like play shows, not as many as we like jumping on or anything like that, but we also just all of us personally have been busy doing other stuff as well. But that being said, the writing process has been very convenient in the sake of prior to him moving, we were still already just kind of like writing something and then send it to the other and then kind of like play with that. And then like if we get the time to meet up, take that little riff that we had and turn that into something, and and so on and so forth. And so yeah, so it's essentially, I mean, that's kind of how it was for If It Matters, even before Taylor had moved, was just sending stuff back and forth and then getting in the jam room and putting practice for a show that's coming up, and then just hey, I have this whatever, and then we just do something with it and be like, make sure you record that. Yeah, don't forget that. And yeah, If It Matters was definitely a lot of don't forget those. That's for sure.
And playing shows now, so you're all kind of all over the place. Do you have like a main scene still, or are you or are you just traveling to wherever you can be, or are you able to hit each other's home locations as like multiple home bases for scenes you can be a part of at this point?
We've definitely played a little more in Mississippi over the last few years. Like, I've always lived here. We've played shows here growing up too. But since he's moved here as well, like Jackson, Mississippi's got a music scene that's kind of on the come up, and Hattiesburg, Mississippi has a thriving. There's like a college town, and they've got a thriving music community there. We do still play in Louisiana a lot. We play in Mississippi a lot. We actually haven't played in Texas in 8 or.
It's been a while. We have played there before, but we have not played there since Taylor
since he moved there. Actually,
yeah.
So lately we are still playing around here. We've been kind of slowing down with that because it takes a lot more effort for him to get from Texas over here. So we're more choosy with how often and which shows we're playing. But he is making the drive and he's coming over. I mean, Dallas is about 5 hours from us. So, I mean, it's a drive, but it's one that he still makes semi-frequently, and he's willing to do it. So, yeah, right now we're kind of focusing on trying to look ahead and do more touring outside of our region.
Kind of make it more worth his while to, like, we can all kind of meet up somewhere and then go play for a couple of days and then, like, go from there. Because we have a show this weekend in Hattiesburg, and he's driving over for that one. But we also got to head up to play in Hattiesburg again 2 weeks from now. But we've got somebody just filling in for him. We've got a friend that's played with us before that we're doing. So we also have that as well. That's, like we've got people that are willing to kind of jump in, and Vice has been cool with, we always hit him up for shows first, but it's like, totally understandable if he can't. So that's kind of what we've been doing with that.
Very nice. Very nice. I'd love to hear a little bit about the music scenes in Mississippi and Louisiana. I'm on the East Coast, so I mean, how the people from the East Coast are very self-centered. So, I'd like to hear like what's the type of music that's popping off out there. What are some, I guess, bands you've been playing with or seeing coming up alongside with you guys?
So big shout out to Shreveport Bears and Strange Brew, both venues have been so kind and wonderful to us. We've been playing over there for the longest time. The music scene over in Shreveport's always been very interesting. Alex can speak more on that scene specifically than I can. The music scene in Ruston was very interesting at one point in time, and a lot of it was very that like twinkly math rock, like emo kind of sound that was going on, which was pretty interesting considering the area. And then Monroe had a really solid music scene at one point in time, and then it kind of slipped under. Alex can also speak more to that as well. He is substantially older than all of us, and so he knows a little bit more. But yeah, and so not a lot of bands that really sound like us per se, I guess, are coming out of the area. But the bands that are coming out, like Weeping Hour, are very good friends of ours. They're like a very heavy metal band. It's the best way to put it without getting too in the weeds with genres, but phenomenal musicians. I mean, their music is so good, very original. It's crazy that they're from West Monroe, Louisiana, but obviously very different genre. like bass than us, and kind of similar. Shout out to like Hag. It's like a kind of like a punk rock band, more or less based out of Shreveport, that is also really good. And so it's like, this. But I guess also like in Jackson, Susio, they're like emo like adjacent for sure, and and
a lot of on the Mississippi side, a lot of like rock, punk and hardcore, emo music coming out. Like Hattiesburg specifically, they've got just like a ton of bands coming out of there.
Yes,
and Jackson as well. But yeah.
I was gonna say, when we play in Louisiana, we're usually with a punk band and like a Weeping Hour 7-string metal band. We're usually the black sheep of the show, I guess. But it always works.
People
always
people
work.
love it. It works out because like people who like both genres, it's cool because they enjoy it. But then the people who just pulled up for a night out and weren't necessarily expecting something so heavy, it's nice being a palate cleanser, so to speak, whenever that happens. So anyway,
That's really cool. That's really cool. So it sounds like all the bills that you put on out there, kind of just a hodgepodge of a lot of different types of music.
yes, that's fair.
Definitely.
I mean, that's great. Like you said, it definitely gives you a lot of exposure to a lot of different types of people that may or may not have, sought you out otherwise. That's actually a really good positive.
Yes.
Very cool. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the new record, if it matters. I wanted to see from your perspectives how this had differed from your last LP. Obviously, it's been a number of years. So just wanted to see in your opinions, from your perspective, how has the sound changed, and was there anything that was conscious about going for that sound change? Because I have some things that I feel like I've picked up on, but I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about it.
Yeah, I really like the evolution that we've been able to make, so to speak, over our discography. And one thing I think about with consecutive normal songs is like it couldn't be named more literally. Like that album was literally just Connor, Jory, and I just wrote some songs, and just like there's no real like, we've got like a song or two, some interludes that like kind of like transition into one another, but there's no real like cohesiveness. It was just like a lot of the lyrics and stuff like that were just what I was going through in college, sort of, I guess, but just kind of just random stuff. But then, you bounce from that to, what we had just described earlier with, getting Alex, and then, going from Seek and Liminal Space, and then If It Matters. If It Matters felt a lot more purposely cohesive, not
intentional.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And
I was just gonna say, like, the other records didn't really feel like we were trying super hard to go for a sound, but I feel like when we started writing If It Matters together, once we had a couple songs on it, it wasn't even intentional in the sense that we were like, let's try to make these other songs sound like this, but it kind of just happened to be that the songs just went together better. Like we wrote them like back to back, basically. Like we just hammered that whole album out over the course of 6 months or so. Whereas a lot of the other albums, it was like, we were writing them over the course of, a long time. So it'd be a song here and a song there. But it felt like whenever we did the last album, we just kind of really hammered through it. And maybe we were just in the headspace to write a song, an album that was more cohesive because of that. But yeah, I just felt like it just feels like a collection that is meant to be with each other more than previous stuff.
It feels like 4 members actually writing together, as opposed to Liminal Space was like, I think I wrote most of the bass and it was just us 3 doing stuff. And then obviously Seek, like everything they had already written, so my parts were just kind of like to fit what was already there. It feels like a band wrote it, basically.
And something that, I guess it's like almost a bit of a theme that I've noticed from, your releases, especially when you're starting at consecutive normal songs, there's a bit of a progression, and I feel like it's fully realized on If It Matters of, and I don't want to say this like it's in a bad way, but in the beginning, a lot of like math rocky, twinkly guitar sounding songs. And then, you know, as you progress, and like I said, you land on it with If It Matters, a lot of the songs feel like they're written with a lot of intention and almost like emotive, like they are trying to evoke emotion out of the listener. Is that like something you were going for? Was there anything that particularly inspired you to run in that direction?
That's very interesting that you say that. That's really cool. For one, thank you. I take that as a compliment. So as far as evoking emotion goes, instrumentally, I mean, to an extent, yeah, like there was, you know, especially with how like we wanted to open it specifically, and like, you know, like have that kind of like energy flow into the, you know, into the second song and how fast paced it is, and then kind of like slow it down and bring it back up. And but also like Connor like wrote the guitar for 2 of the songs on there, and then we added stuff too, and then like Alex wrote one of the songs on there as well. And so that there was definitely an interesting like dynamic going in with that instrumentally. Lyrically, I was going through a lot more at the time writing those lyrics, more so than ever before. And I was like, I mean, there were so many lyrics that I had like written out and then deleted, and then, you know, put a whole lot of time into just like ideas I was struggling with and things I was struggling with. And I was just, you know, as like, I don't know, I put a lot of time into how those lyrics were going to like fit together over everything, as well as just what I'm saying. And definitely way more so than I ever have before, like in a way that I'm like, can confidently take pride in putting in the time for those lyrics that I wrote, and, you know, liking what I wrote. And yeah, so that is my response.
From like a more general perspective of that too, like his is a very specific, like, you know, trying to evoke emotion because he was going through things and feeling things and writing lyrics. But just like from a being in a band perspective, I feel like, you know, the first stuff we wrote, it was just whatever came to mind. We're just writing stuff and just kind of putting it all together, you know, recording it and releasing it. And I just feel like as you are in a band for longer, especially in the same band, like been in this band specifically for 10 years, you just, as you get through your discography, you know, as you release more music, you go back and you listen to your old stuff and you find stuff that you wish was better about it, take that into your next release, you know? And so I feel like it's kind of just like a natural progression of, we're all older, we've been playing music longer, we have heard our old stuff a 1,000 times, and we know what we love about it, and we know, you know, what we would change if we could go back in time and write it differently. Yeah, it just feels like just kind of a natural thing that I feel like anybody who's been in a band or in the same band for 10 years would, you know, hopefully, in a way, make their next stuff more, like you said, evoke more emotion or convey a feeling better than their old stuff did.
On the like topic of changing sound from the first release to now, something I like is that we've used the same producer for every single release, and you can also see his growth as a producer from release to release. Because I mean, just the overall, yeah, Eric Wooler for sure. The overall sound of like Consecutive Normal Songs, not that it sounded bad at all, but like you compare that to If It Matters, you can see his 10-year journey as well.
I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. It's also it's nice, you know, keeping the same producer. Like that's you know, it's beautiful. It's beautiful in a way. It's like you all got to grow together. That's very nice.
Oh yeah, he's like the 5th member of our band, straight up.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, he's done everything. Even before Inside Voices, Eric was recording everything Connor and I were doing together. I think we had maybe gone to a handful of different producers outside of that, but he's been there the whole time. Everything Inside Voices has ever done outside of like mixing and mastering on 2 releases, but has recorded all of it. Yeah, he is. Yeah,
Produced, yeah, a lot of stuff.
Yep, he's the man.
So to a little bit, if you don't mind, I'd love to dig into what you were saying about the lyrics on the album. 2-part question. First, do you have like any particular favorite song lyrically or like set of lyrics that you were particularly proud to write about or just to write them? And then secondly, like, did you ever have any hesitation about being more vulnerable on this record?
Your first question. A lot of them I'm very. Hang on, let me make sure I got. The one that immediately comes to mind that I'm going to reference is from.
I remember what he wrote.
Yeah, I got to remember what I wrote. Yeah, well, I want to make sure I get it right because I really like what I did with this one. So the song "Into Nothing," Alex wrote the main guitar riff for the song, and then we kind of like wrote it out from there. But the lyrics itself, I pulled from this really sick quote from an NPC in the game Elden Ring, and the quote is from Millicent, and spoiler alert if you haven't played the game, she dies, and then she, like, as she's dying, she says, if I'm to flower into something other than myself, I would rather rot into nothingness as I am. And I was like, no, that's crazy. That's an insane line for this video game to just drop on me right now. That's nuts. And so I had, like, I really liked that idea, and I was already kind of playing with this idea of this quote from Dr. Manhattan in series Watchmen. And he's got a quote in there that essentially says something to the effect of like, there are, marble, blocks out there that have, that are yet to be statues, or, whatever, something like that. And I was like, really playing with these two ideas of like, man, like, as I'm like living this life that I'm living, and like, kind of sculpting myself into who I want to be, in this, like, this block that I'm working with here. And, sometimes I kind of like chip away at the wrong things or whatever, or kind of, do whatever. It's what I make of it. But so long as I stick to who I am, I would rather do that than be anything else, regardless of like, the mistakes that I make in chipping or whatever. And so anyway, so that just, I really like taking the, like, kind of an idea of taking those two ideas, they're totally separate from one another, and just kind of mashing them together into something I was already kind of just, I don't want to say struggling with. Everybody's just figuring themselves out. But yeah, that would be just an example, I guess, of one. And then your second question, what was the second one?
Did you have any hesitations about being, vulnerable or more vulnerable on this record?
Yes, definitely, because I found myself deleting a lot of lyrics. I would like write stuff out and be like, I don't want to say that, or I don't, like that's, or this doesn't sound cool, or I would write something down that like sounded really good to me at the time, and then I go back and read it, and I'm like, that's not for songs, like that's just a thought or whatever. But that being said, like, if you, not that I care to go into any of it, but if you know the context of behind some of the things that happened and like some of the lyrics in there, it does touch on things that were just very like, less than fun to deal with, or less than fun to think about, and finding the right way to put those ideas into words that are appropriate, and also go together, and also kind of fit, can make a melody out of and then make catchy. But it's definitely a lot more difficult, as opposed to just kind of like more so generalizing some of the thoughts and just to try to make a catchy hook. Making the lyrics actually, kind of fleshed out, and then praying to God I can make them rhyme or something, or make them, not even particularly rhyme, just catchy to some extent. But yeah, it's a long-winded way to answer that.
No, that's a great answer. I really appreciate that, because it does take a lot. It takes a lot to put yourself out there, and it's like having the conversation with yourself, like, oh, am I being earnest or vulnerable, or am I just like being like cringy and whiny and nobody wants to hear this?
Yes. Yeah, that is an excellent way to put it, for sure.
But I find it interesting, you saying, you're pulling from The Watchmen and you're pulling from Elden Ring. Is pulling from other pieces of media a typical way for you to write lyrics, or are you generally inspired by things of that nature. I just feel like challenging yourself to put those two concepts together it's just a really cool idea.
I can't say I do that regularly. I have before. I've made like Dark Souls references in earlier releases and stuff like that. It's definitely not like a usual go-to for inspiration. Usually it's like a lot of times it'll be like I'll either like, if I hear like a specific quote or like a certain idea or hear something in passing and kind of just like chew on that for a bit, I can talk it out, but like trying to put it into lyrics if I like the idea enough is more so where I pull a lot of like inspiration from, like If It Matters, the title track specifically. I love the lyrics for that song. I love the melody for that song a whole lot, but I really like the lyrics. And the whole idea of the lyrics is basically just like, I guess in a very condensed way, saying like, what happens whenever I die? Like, is it one of those things to where like, does anything that I do here like really matter whenever the next thing goes along? Like, is the concept of like whenever I die, does that really mean that I'm dying, or does it mean that I'm still around until the last person who remembers what I've done is like the concept of me, if that still exists? And basically, I guess just kind of talking about legacy, and not so much being worried about having a legacy or doing something specific with it, but more so just asking the question of if it matters. Like if it it's like, does any of this, like, there was I think there's a spot in the second verse. Yeah, do you ever ask yourself if there's a permanence that exists in what you're working towards? Is legacy lost the final word? Do we leave this place or reemerge? And it's like, I guess I really like that collection of words specifically to describe what I'm trying to get at. Just like, where does this really start and end? And is what I'm doing now, does it matter, or is it up to me to make it matter? And then it gets convoluted. Silly, I guess. I could ramble on it, but yeah. Yeah, that's just how I process. That's like ideas like that, or like I could have just kept on rambling about it. So I had to take all of that collection of just whatever and then condense it into a song. And then
that's heavy as fuck.
Thank you. So sometimes it's media. Other times, like Bright Black on Consecutive Normal Songs is about me running over a black bear on I-20 in North Louisiana. And so so there was like that experience, and then Cheesin' and Still Cheesin'.
We got two songs about that cat that keeps showing up.
So it's most of the songs are me trying to just be philosophical and silly, I guess, but then other ones are actually just silly and fun. But yeah.
Very cool. I wanted to talk a little bit, like I did allude to before. I felt like even the music on If It Matters was more emotive than previous releases. But before I do that, I did want to ask a bit of a question that it does relate. Who are the Delta Sleep fans in the band?
All of us, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I ask because I want to know what your opinions are on their most recent album. I think it was last year it came out, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to get everybody a vibe check on what everybody thought about it.
I like it. I mean, they'll never. Ghost City is one of the greatest like full-length album releases, period, within that genre that exists. But so I feel like that's a really hard, thing to come out. But I mean, I still thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I definitely don't listen to it as much, but
yeah, I would say it's one of my lesser like ones that I've listened to the least still at this point. But I do really like it still.
Same.
Yeah.
I ask because I felt like I really did enjoy that album from them, and one of the reasons I liked it, I was like, I kind of like the slower and similarly more emotive sound. I was like, sounds like not like mall emo, but like really just sad stuff. And I felt I kind of had some of the same feeling when listening to If It Matters. So I was wondering, like, was there some influence taken from them for the record?
Definitely
Oh,
taken from Delta Sleep.
Yes.
Yeah, if
My
we could
favorite
steal their
younger
songs,
guys-
we just would. Like we would play their songs if we could.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that they wrote them and we couldn't. You know.
Yeah.
Alex has a whole guitar playthrough of one of their songs on YouTube.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
good.
have a tattoo of El Pastor on my arm. I
Oh,
mean,
dang.
we're fans.
Yeah, and we've definitely been running with them, you know, or listening to them for quite some time. They've always been a baseline influence right alongside like Title Fight and stuff like that. So
You mentioning liking their like more emotive stuff. I think my favorite thing of theirs is Younger Years.
for sure.
Yeah.
That's my-
They're like darkest
Yeah.
and like most. That's the one that pulls
I
on.
love that one. Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to ask was like from your core fan base that you've been cultivating for the past 10 years, how was the reception from them regarding If It Matters? How do you guys feel like it was received by the fans?
So far, the best of any release we've had. We've like as far as like the release shows were very nice, and the response, you know, digitally on streams and stuff like that was very nice. I mean, a lot of very positive comments, specifically within the direction of like best we've done so far, like so on and so forth.
I think like the turnouts at our release shows were the best we've ever had. The initial streams and like people listening online out of the gate was the best, but also what I've noticed is that this release we've had the least drop off, because every time we have a release we'll have a spike. Everybody will listen to it right when it comes out, and then a lot of times it'll go right back down closer to where it was, maybe like a little bit higher, like some more listeners and some more streams, but kind of hovered at the same general level as far as that goes. And I feel like with this one it went up and it stayed a lot closer to where it went, right after we released. So I thought that was a good metric to.
The best way to tell is the amount of car bombs that are taken on release day. If
Yeah.
it's more, then it did better,
Yeah,
which is a good thing, but also a terrible thing for the people
yeah,
taking it.
it's awful. We won't be doing it anymore. So
Yeah. We're all a little too old for that.
yeah, for sure. But that is a good metric, man. Depending upon seeing how many people buy the album on the first day is pretty cool. And then
Nice. So then, have you been continuing writing? I know it was released in January, so it's been some time now. Have you guys continued writing? Is a new release like something you're even thinking about at this point? Love to see where your mind is at now.
I feel like we're always like I'm always coming up with a riff here and there, and I know Alex is always coming up with a riff here and there, and Connor's been coming up with some riffs here and there, and Vice has been coming up with some riffs here and there. But as far as like purposefully sitting down to write new songs to go record, no, we have not done anything. The main thing was just releasing this and then playing on it and trying to branch out and allocate more resources and time into playing versus actually recording. But now that it's it's been some time, it's you almost kind of get that itch again of like, oh well, man, this one riff that I have would be really cool. So purposeful writing, so to speak. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
we typically just collect clips on our phone until we're ready to get together and write.
Yep.
At least
Yep.
I know that's what I do.
Yep, yeah, that is exactly right.
With 2026 coming up, I know you do have a few shows coming around the corner. But it sounded like you were trying to get some more lengthy, local to local plus runs, I suppose, local extended. Do you have anything coming down the pipeline and then for first half of 2026?
We have nothing booked, but we have talked about potential routes that we were wanting to book. So we have a few contacts with places that we haven't played yet that we're gonna try to reach out to. We've got like general areas that we want to play and that we could play, based on like the contacts we have.
Yeah.
you know, obviously we want to play everywhere, but networking is a whole other job when you're a band too. And booking, and we have to book all of our own shows, which we all get pretty tired of doing.
Yeah, booking shows
But,
is ass.
We are. It is in the plans. You know, we're gonna try really hard not to let that fall to the side because we're pretty bad about doing one one little tour, like one little 5-day run a year or something, and then it just none of us feel like booking more shows.
Any areas or states or cities you're trying specifically to get to?
I know for sure. Trying to play in Tennessee more. We have some friends that are in bands in Tennessee. We have a lot of friends that live in Tennessee now, in Nashville and stuff like that, and Georgia. And then a friend of ours he used to, you know, run the scene back home, or not say back home, in Louisiana.
Oh yeah.
And he has got like a booming music scene going on where he lives now, and it's in the Indiana to Chicago, that kind of general area. Probably trying to get up there, maybe.
Nice.
Probably Texas. You know, we have a member that lives in Texas now. Probably gonna try to make it out
We
there.
did tell him that was part of the deal. If he moved out there, he had to find places for us to play out there, because we played in like Denton once, and then we played in Austin like once, but we never really been able to truly like go over there and like really make contacts or anything like that. So
I know you said you're from the East Coast. Like, I have a friend that lives in, you know, Richmond, Virginia. I've got a friend that lives in Brooklyn. Like, people that I want to go and see again. And it'd be cool to play up there and hang out with them. So, you know, it's all on the table.
My last question is, and now it's really interesting because you're all spread out. I always ask, like, if I were to come to your city of residence, like, what is the one meal that I would have to have, or like one restaurant I would have to hit before I left?
We can tell you the easy one where,
dude,
Hell
if
yeah.
you're from Pittsburgh, Mississippi, come to Key City Brewery. It is an eatery / brewery. Both of them are friends of ours. The guy that runs the kitchen and the guy that runs the brewery are both homies. The guy that runs the brewery is we've actually done collabs with them and like got our own beers brewed.
Oh, hell yeah.
Space, and if it matters, the guy with the long hair that is in the Way Back to Myself music video and Grounding music video is the brewer. That's the guy. The beer is fantastic. And then our buddy Blake, who runs the kitchen, is a connoisseur, if you will. I mean, cooking to him is like music is to us. I mean, he's just good at it. Really good pizza, but also just other like good plates. As far as something specific, anything on the menu is good. I can sit here and rattle off anything. But yeah, if you are ever in Vicksburg, certified Key City is where you should go.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Anywhere else?
I guess I can speak well, Monroe. There are a few good spots, but if you're gonna go to Monroe, go to Enoch's and get a burger.
Yep.
Like that's the go-to spot.
and a car bomb.
Yeah. All the Enoch's for the car bomb.
Yeah,
burger.
and get a car bomb.
Whenever I used to live in Monroe or Western Enoch's was my watering hole. And then I moved to Vicksburg, and then Key City became the watering hole. And both of them are just super awesome places to be. We played at Enoch's a couple of times. It's super awesome there. We've done a couple of release shows at Key City. Both places that really appreciate live music and support that and really encourage it. So there's also that dynamic that goes into it as well. It's super sick. So yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to do this. The last minute or so left, what would you like to so kindly show to the audience?
I mean, we have a show coming up. We have shows coming up, I guess, too, in Hattiesburg. One on October 25th and the other on November 7th. And if, we don't have anything booked outside of that, but look us up on Instagram, Inside Voices
Everywhere.
Band. Yeah, anywhere that you can find us on any streaming platform. Yeah, we're most active on Instagram, Inside Voices Band on there. Just keep up with what we got going on. And, anyone seeing this, if we have not played where you live and know where we can play, hit us up. And if we get booked there, come see us or whatever, I guess, is what I've got to say.
If you're listening and you're not in a band, start one.
Start a band.
Because no one knows
Yep.
what they're doing.
Yep.
We still don't either.
Yep, yep. Got 10 years in, clueless. So you should absolutely do that.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you guys. Really appreciate you doing this. You were awesome, and hell yeah, go listen to Inside Voices.